Hello, welcome to the Aligned Life podcast. I am excited to share this week's episode with you guys. We're going to talk about getting to know yourself, which is really the core foundation to creating an aligned life. It sounds really obvious, but maybe we don't think about it. You cannot create something that is aligned to you if you don't know who you are and what does alignment look and feel like to you, and what is your specific alignment. And I mean, I've said this example 1,000 times, but it's worth repeating for this episode. For me, I remember when I was 22 years old and I decided to go and work at a mine as a mine site admin for because I thought that it was going to be good money. And my mom, my sister, all these people who knew me well were saying, like, you're not going to like that. You're a vegetarian. You like get homesick. You're going to be 4 hours away for 2 weeks at a time and eating cafeteria food, and you're not going to like that. And so I have a strong ego, and I definitely had a strong ego at that time, and can be quite stubborn. And so I went ahead with it. And it was actually like a blessing in disguise. I lasted like 4 months, 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, because, of course, it was not in alignment for me. And we all have our own variation of doing these things in our life that we either do because we are super stubborn and we want to prove people wrong, or we do it for the wrong reasons, right? Like doing something just because it's going to um, be like a prosperous thing. If it's not in alignment for you, it's not going to be in your best interest, right? Because there are things that it's coming actually from a belief system that you have to do things that are out of alignment to make money in this case. And you can think about that for anything. It's so interesting, and we're going to talk a lot about belief systems in this episode, but like even thinking about how people do things and like almost torture themselves in a way, like I mean that not maybe so literal, but people will torture themselves and they'll really struggle and think that they have to sacrifice to lose weight, for example. And so they'll do the exercise that they literally hate. They'll eat the most boring, plain, bland food that they don't like. It doesn't even taste good to them, right? Because they have a belief system that you need to, like, that being healthy is takes a lot of sacrifice and is not appetizing and is really hard, and you have to be in pain, essentially, physically, right, when you're working out or whatever, to create X outcome. And people can do this in every area of their life. It can be the same thing with relationships, it can be the same thing in career. We all can kind of suffer um, from this way of thinking, or of a belief system that we have to do things that we don't want to do to create an outcome that we want. So really, truly, and I was thinking about this on my run this morning, is how important it is to understand your belief system and to think about, and we'll talk about this on future episodes, but just to introduce this idea to you. I mean, I've introduced it to you before anyways on the podcast, but to kind of remember and understand that most people go about life and go about achieving goals from the idea of, what do I need to do to create X outcome, right? To lose weight, to get fit, to get healthy, to be in a relationship if I'm single, to create the business that I want, to get the job that I want, to um, run the race that I want to race in X amount of time. They think about, what do I need to do? And what I want to always encourage you and help you come back to is to remember to start off first with, what do I need to believe about myself and about this thing that I want. So if it's a tangible thing or if it's an intangible thing, what do I need to believe about myself and myself in relation to this thing for me to accomplish it? So, like, I need to believe that it's possible for me to make the money that I want to make without having to go work at a mine, right? Or I need to believe that it's possible for me to eat the food that I enjoy and create a healthy body. I need to believe that it's possible for me to find movement that I love that doesn't have to take an hour a day if you're feeling like stressed for time or overwhelmed by the time commitment, let's say. I need to find movement that I truly love and enjoy, that feels good to me, that's an easy yes for me to do to help me create a healthy, strong, fit, flexible body. So all these things we need to start with a belief system. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to become a limiting belief of yours, but just so you're really aware, changing your beliefs is going to be one of the hardest things you'll do. And I think that's almost why we tend to focus on the action, and almost to the point where it's just like, okay, I'll just get to work, and it's like frantic work, and people will just get busy doing the action, and who they are, the vessel that they are, the core of their being, which is the thoughts, hasn't changed. So wherever you go, there you are. And if you haven't changed the most essential part of you, which is your belief system, then it doesn't matter which circumstance you plunk yourself in. It's always going to be the same. You're always going to experience it the same until you change your way of thinking, which is a combination of healing the limiting beliefs and reprogramming yourself to have new empowered beliefs. And when you can do those things, then the circumstances change. You don't have to necessarily go anywhere. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. And people do this their entire life. They will be in a relationship and they'll struggle in the relationship and they'll think it's the other person's fault and problem. And I'm not saying that there aren't things that this person could do to change to maybe be a better partner, but they won't take the responsibility of like, who am I being to have attracted this partner? And again, I'm not placing blame if anyone was in a like toxic relationship. I'm not meaning that you created that. I'm not wanting you to blame yourself, or I'm not suggesting that you manifested abuse or toxic relationship. But I just mean for you to take responsibility for the situations that you find yourself in life, and not to blame yourself, but to think, okay, well, I'm in this situation, and there must be, since everything in the universe is on purpose, and it happens so perfectly when you just think about nature and seasons, and spring changing into summer to fall to winter, and how it just is so perfect and just does it all, right? And how our body just does everything that it does without us needing to think, breathe, heart pump, you know, stomach digest. Like, we don't have to think about any of the processes that happen in the body. They just happen, and they happen perfectly. And we have to remember that there is that same purpose in the other parts of the universe, as in our life. And to then turn around and ask ourselves, because it puts you in a position of power. It gives you all of the power to just sit and think to yourself, like, why am I experiencing this? And maybe there is something that I need to learn about myself to help me to overcome this situation. And then instantly you are in the driver's seat of your life. And that's a powerful place to be. It's a very empowered place. And you then can feel inspired to do something and to change your life. So, kind of getting back on track of getting to know yourself, I wanted to do this episode because um, things that I didn't grow up being like an astrology nerd or and still certainly not one. But there's things that over the last, 5 or so years that I've started to learn just from my own personal use that have been really helpful in helping me get to know myself, to know my own alignment. Now, I'm gonna, everything that I have in my Align membership is going to really help you get to know yourself. And there's a ton of journaling prompts in there as well. And I'm also going to have as a download for this episode, I'm going to have some journaling prompts that you can download to help you get to know yourself, because journaling is one of the key ways to get to know yourself. But I will say that it's asking yourself, when it's just you and you, right? You and your journal, asking yourself the question, you're only going to get as much as you're really able to take in. Like, how honest are you able to be with yourself? Because sometimes, and especially maybe for those of you at the beginning of your personal growth journey, we're still not able to take full responsibility for things, and we're still not able to really see and know ourselves. And from a place of truly wanting what's best for ourselves, to be honest about where we are in our own way. And I know it took me years to really see how I was the problem, right? It's like Taylor Swift's anti-hero song. It's like, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I actually love that. And I think that that's hilarious. And not saying that you are a problem, not saying that I am a problem or the problem, but like, I like living life from the belief or the understanding that we need to take radical responsibility for ourselves and our thoughts, and that puts you, like I said, in power to change things then. And Dr. Joe Vitale talks about this. Like, pretty much anyone who talks about personal growth or spiritual growth or law of attraction or whatever will tell you these exact same principles and teachings, that you need to take full responsibility for yourself. And I think that's something that comes in phases, or comes over time. You get to know yourself more and more. So, I can think back to my early motherhood days where my kids, when I just had, especially my first two daughters, where I didn't take any responsibility, and every problem that I had was, because of other people. And we do this, right? Because it's a way that we can protect ourselves, and it's our ego essentially protecting ourselves, or thinking that we're protecting ourselves. But what it's really doing is keeping you small. It's keeping you stuck. So I didn't take responsibility for how I was feeling. I blamed other people. Like, if I was running late, I didn't take responsibility for that. I would say, like, oh, it's because I have kids, right? Like, it's not my fault, it's my kids, or it's the roads, or it was somebody, it was an accident that I just couldn't avoid. Like, there was so many things that I just didn't take responsibility for. And um and yeah, it's just coming back to ego. So getting to know yourself through journaling, I think, is a great thing. And I think that, like, it's 100% something that I would encourage you to do. But you have to be really open and curious and not blame yourself. It's not about criticism, it's not about judgment. It's just being really curious and open to seeing kind of like where you are the problem and where you could be the problem. And I say that like lightheartedly, not in a pointing the finger type shame type of way, okay? So anyways, kind of where I wanted to start with this is one of the things that I think for me personally that's been really interesting and really transformational is learning my human design because it is a system, it's like a technology that is its own thing. And you can't, in the same way, like kind of how I was saying that journaling, you might be able to hide things from yourself a little bit. Like if you don't own anything, right? If you don't want to own or take responsibility, but like human design is kind of like impersonal. You just put in your information. It's like astrology if you're not familiar with it. It's similar-ish to astrology. So you'll find out like your energy type, profile, and I don't even know strategy. I'm not even like, again, I use it for myself and I'm interested in learning about my own human design, but I am not an expert in it. And I don't think that you have to be an expert in it to get the clarity on getting to know yourself that you need. So, like, for example, my energy type is I'm a manifesting generator. And it's helped me have so much clarity about why I might have, 6 books on the go. Like, maybe I have 4 books that I'm, reading, and I'll just pick up at different times and, audiobooks and, the podcast selection that I like to listen to. It's like, I like anything to do with health and wellness. I like running, I like yoga, I like mindset, I like meditation, I like, um, online business, I like parenting, I like relationships, I like learning about, um, home decor and style and, on and on. I could go on like 1,000 different things that I love learning about. I have a lot of interests, and there's because so much of the world teaches us to, niche down and pick one thing and finish. If you start something, you need to finish it. And if you don't, you're a failure. There's so many things that I've had to personally relearn for myself or be okay with knowing that I am not going to be the same as everyone else. And so some rules don't apply to me. Like I tend to go like hardcore into something and become obsessed with it, and then I might switch something up and move on to something else when I feel like I've learned what I wanted to learn from this thing. And it's I still have, for example, I've been interested in yoga, let's say, since I was 15, 16 years old, and it's like a core passion and love for me in my life. But there's times where I always have my yoga practice, and I hope that I'll always continue to have my own personal yoga practice because I believe that it is so good for your health and your body to stay flexible. But like there's times where I actually love learning about it and learning about the yamas and the niyamas and the philosophy side of it and chanting and all of that. And then there's times where I'll kind of float over here and start learning about this and that. And so by me understanding like, oh, you're a manifesting generator, and so you do have a lot of interests. That makes sense why you have a membership that talks about health and wellness and meditation and hypnosis and yoga and relationships and purpose and mindset and all of these things because this is what I love, and these are all of my interests that I have that I've just dove in headfirst into and become obsessed with and want to share more. And then learning even more about my human design. So the next part of it is I think it's called your strategy. is for me, I'm a 4-6. And so a 4 means that I am into, I like to be specific with the people that I surround myself with. And I like to connect people to other people or to things. And like even this episode, it's like me connecting you to like, hey, you should learn about your human design if you're interested. Or, try this journaling or do this. Like I love connecting people with things. And, it is actually something that I feel that a lot of people even come to me for is like, hey, do you know anything about this or whatever? And because I do have a lot of interests, I feel like I am kind of connected to a lot of things and do feel like that's something that I actually love to do is find my people and feel connected to my people. So anyways, that's part of that that's the 4, and then the line 6 part of me is interesting, and I think I've talked about this on episodes before too, but line 6 is saying that you have like the wisdom, I can't even remember how they describe it specifically, but it's like you are full of wisdom and that you come to this world, and there's the different phases of your life where you are gathering the wisdom, I think it is, and then you're like the one who kind of like has this wisdom and knowledge. And funny enough is I've always kind of felt that, but then, from my upbringing of like just, parents and saying like don't be, not that my parents would ever have said like don't be egotistical or anything like that, but just like that's been like an understanding. No one ever had to say that to me, but it was just like understood that you don't need to brag or that you don't need to be a show off or anything like that, and that it's good to be humble and all of that. And so then it's kind of been an interesting thing, um, learning about being a line 6 and thinking to myself like, oh, that makes sense, that I felt like very wise for my age at like 19 when I was teaching yoga, but then feeling too young to share some of these truths that I felt like I had in me because I was 19 and teaching it to, let's say 50-year-olds in my yoga classes. So it's also kind of interesting to like look at your life from the lens of learning about your own human design too, and seeing how it plays a role and how it's come up in your life in different ways. And then another thing is for me, I'll feel satisfaction when I am in alignment with my human design, and I'll feel frustration when I'm not in alignment. And it's so interesting how that is so true about me. Like, just exactly how I feel. It's a deep feeling of satisfaction when I feel like I'm in alignment and I feel like I'm on purpose and sharing what I want to share and doing the things that I want to do. And I feel it is the best word to describe it is satisfaction. And that's what they'll say for manifesting generators. And then the feeling of frustration, which is funny because I would say that's how I felt so much in my early motherhood days when I was like, I'm going to be a stay at home mom. I want to be a stay at home mom. And then I just felt like, frustration when this would happen and this would come up and wanting more for myself, but then feeling guilty and the frustration in when things were not going smooth, because another thing about manifesting generators is that they are very quick, they have lots of energy, and they're expert multitaskers, and because they have so many interests, it's like they have so much energy for all of these things as well. And so I find myself even, day to day feeling frustration if it's like if people aren't moving as fast as me or whatever, that can come up for me. So it's really helpful. This is one of the best ways that I would encourage you to get to know yourself because it's non-judgmental. This is just about your energy, and this is just kind of who you are at a core self. It's not, nobody knows you. It's nobody saying, oh, I think this is about you. It's like, this is a technology essentially. So I feel like I want you to go and try it out and learn about it for yourself. Not try it out, but like learn about it for yourself and learn, at least learn like your energy type and read about it and learn your strategy and yourself and your not self theme is I think what it's called. And so the resource for that that I would encourage you to check, and I'll put it in the show notes as well in case you can't write this down right now, but you can check out My Human Design, probably.com, I think is the website. That's, and her name is Jenna Zoe, and that's who I really like to follow. And um, her website will, you can type in and find out your human design just like for free. It's similar to astrology, where you just need to know your birthday, time, and location. So that's one thing that you can do. And, find me on Instagram too at megan.schmidt.coaching and share with me your human design and be like, hey, I listened to this episode and this is my human design. I actually think it's cool and fun to hear people's design. And I think it's a good way to get to know people too, now that I know a bit about human design. So that's one thing. And even on top of that, astrology is another interesting thing. You don't have to be an expert in any of these things. I know that sometimes we can feel overwhelmed because it can be like there's so much information on astrology and so much of it is way over my head. But just knowing that, for example, I am a Virgo. And so for me, I know that perfectionism is a thing that I like for myself. And I have to remember that to let other people go through life on their own. And being a mom, it's very interesting, even like, you know, getting your kids getting dressed. And I find this Virgo tendency of me of being like, "Oh, is that really what you wanna wear today?" And, like, not saying anything, right? And just letting them be their own selves. And, um, it's okay if it's not that you can't say, like, "This, looks good with this bottom," "This top looks good with this bottom," or whatever, and helping them kind of, like, maybe learn some of those things, but also letting them be and express themselves how they want to has is a practice of mine that I work through when um when my girls, even just get dressed, as simple and silly as that might sound to you. It's something that's specific for me because I'm the Virgo, right? So when you learn about your astrology, you'll see what your tendencies are, and you'll get, kind of what I mean about the perfectionism. You'll get it in your own way based on your own sign. And then you can learn too, just to get to know yourself, and maybe you learn about your spouse's human design and their astrology to get to know them too, because there's so much truth to it, and sometimes people want to disregard it, but I find it to be really helpful in to me, this is way more helpful than personality types or anything like that. So but I mean, if you like personality types and that works for you, that is amazing. Just find things that work for you and learn about yourself in that way so that you can understand yourself and get to know yourself, right? And just kind of going back to understanding and knowing yourself from like the human design perspective, so much of the things that I maybe um, would judge myself for or criticize myself for just internally, like in my own head, make a lot of sense now that I understand more about myself through human design. So I just want to share that with you, is sometimes we can think like, oh, I'm doing life wrong, and I should be more like this, and I should finish things, or I should just have one interest. I should try to niche down, or I should try to be um whatever. For example, projectors in human design, they'll have their own things that they'll feel insecure about, or like I think it's manifestors where they get a surge of energy and then and that might be a couple months where they're working on a project and they feel super inspired and lit up, and then they kind of like crash because they put out so much energy at that time, and then they need to recharge and kind of like go into hermit mode and withdrawal. And they might, if they don't know that about themselves, if they've always been surrounded by other people, for example, maybe they're surrounded by manifesting generators who have a lot of energy, or generators who have a lot of energy all day long, and kind of maybe more consistently when they're connected to joy, they might judge themselves and think that something's wrong with them, when in reality that's just how they're meant to use their energy and how they're meant to live. But if we're trying to be like other people, we will always feel like something is wrong with us because we're not like other people. And this is why you've heard me say as well that it's important for you to be inspired by other people and their journey, and use that as motivation. Like, oh, so and so did this, I could totally do this. But don't get so caught up in thinking that you need to do something the way other people are doing it, because the way that it's meant for you to do it is not going to be how other people have done it. So you might start off following people's suggestions, and they might say, okay, do this, then do that. And you might think, okay, perfect. But it might not be the thing that you need to do. There, there might be things that are going to be way harder for you because of your belief systems, because of your upbringing, because of your um, because you have different interests or ways of working even, right? You have a different energy level than other people. Might be more, might be less, might be it's just different. And you need to learn that about yourself so that you can figure out the way that you're going to accomplish something. So sometimes we are going to accomplish things in the same ways that other people do, and lots of times we're going to do it in our own way, and it's perfect for us to do it in our own way. And I remember doing my health coaching certification, and they talk about the idea in food and nutrition. It's called bioindividuality, right? And it applies to all of life. Is that for me, like I actually really feel like I thrive on a vegan plant-based diet. I do well. I feel energized. I'm training for another full marathon right now. I'm like week 1, week 2 kind of, I guess, into the training. And I've ran marathons before, and I've ran half marathons, and I feel like I do well on a plant-based diet, and other people might not do well that way of eating. And as much as I, have had ego in the past thinking that everyone needs to be vegetarian for the animal's sake, and I don't like the idea of animals suffering at all, but I mean, who am I to tell other people what to do and how to eat and how to live? And I have some maturity now to understand that. And so, like I said, it's the same thing with all of life, is that you're going to have your own way to go about life. The next thing I want to talk about is to get curious about your limiting beliefs and where they come from and how they hold you back. So if you really want to get to know yourself, get to know, like, I'll say it like this. Think about what it is that you desperately want. And I would bet that there's things that you desperately want in your life that you haven't even told people that you want because you feel shame around wanting it. You're like, "Oh, it'd be silly if I say that I want to be, a well-known public figure," or I feel silly um wanting to be recognized, or wanting to have more money, or wanting to have this title or whatever. And some of it is ego. I will say that. A lot of it is ego, but also it's okay for you to want what you want, and being really honest with yourself about why you want what you want. So here's the thing. You can want anything that you want, just know that it doesn't change you. You're the only one that can change you. So nothing outside of you, meaning no result that you produce or no title that you can achieve, whether that means a title through university or through a job or whatever, no title can change you. People spend a lot of money and a lot of time in their life trying to feel good about themselves by achieving titles or accomplishments only to find out that they still feel the same way about themselves. They still have the same insecurities and the same limiting beliefs, if they haven't changed who they are in the process. And who you are is a combination of what you think and what you believe about yourself and your belief systems and reprogramming the limiting beliefs that you're holding on to. So get to know your limiting beliefs. Like, what are you telling yourself? I can do this and I can't do that. Like, I just couldn't do that. Or I want to do that, but then I'd have to do this, this, and this. And those are in a lot of ways our belief systems. And it's something that's kind of like vague to talk about on a podcast. But like if you're working and getting coached on it, it's easier to explain how those can be belief systems and limiting belief systems more appropriately. So, um, I would really encourage you to get curious about what you want most. The things that you maybe haven't told anyone that you would even maybe feel a little bit silly for wanting, and the things that you maybe have told people and you say that you want. That's super great. Get clear on it. Be really crystal clear on what it is that you want. And then ask yourself, why don't you have it yet? And all the answers that come up are going to help you understand your beliefs. Okay. And beliefs, like we talked about maybe last week, or maybe that was on Instagram. Beliefs are like the root, and they have a bunch of thoughts that will be attached to that root. So similar vibration thoughts that all come from the same root of a limiting belief is how I like to think of it. So getting to the root is really important for you to clearing it. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes now. Also, get curious about your judgments and the things that you get triggered or jealous about. So, what I mean by this is like, what do you judge other people for? And what do you feel triggered by? You're maybe out with friends or family and somebody says something or does something, and you're in your mind, you're just like, that's such an instant trigger for me, right? What are those things? Why do they trigger you? Don't think about the other person. The other person is literally just a figure of your imagination. They are just helping you. They're your teacher, helping you see what needs to be healed inside of you. So try not to make it personal about the other person. Like, use them for your own personal growth. So when you think, oh, this person triggered me so much, no, 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 it's not about this person. Just let that person go, and all of the beliefs and attachments that you have to that person, and just ask yourself, why is this triggering? Like, what is it about this person or this situation that triggers me? And you will have more awareness on yourself. You'll start to get to know what needs to be healed within you to keep growing and moving and accomplishing things that you want to accomplish in your life. And same thing with getting to know what you're jealous of or envious of in other people. So the things that people have, isn't it funny how there are certain people who can, maybe they get a raise or they get a promotion or they get something material in their life or go on a trip, and you're happy for them. You're like, "Oh, awesome." And then there's somebody else that is that same thing might happen, and you might feel really jealous of that person, or of them accomplishing something or having something or getting something. So again, you might think, oh, it's because it's the person, but like there's something that this person has. There's a trait, there's a characteristic about this person that you need to understand, that there's something that maybe you want to be like in this person. So it's not so much about the person, try not to make it personal, but like get to know yourself and what this feeling, because the feeling's happening in you. So it has to do with you. And we want to blame other people, but the feeling's in you. So you can't blame other people, right? And it's like Wayne Dyer talked about it. I think I said this on last week's podcast episode, but he's like, if you get sick and your doctor gives somebody else a prescription for you, doesn't make sense. You're the one that has the sickness inside of you. So you're the one that needs to take the prescription. And that's the same thing when you're the one that has an emotion going on inside of you and you want to blame it on someone else. It doesn't make sense. So when you feel jealous or triggered, look at what's going on inside of you and the beliefs that you have, that you hold, the thoughts that you have and think about the other person or the situation or what they have. Okay. The next thing that I have is I've talked about this many times, but remember that this is my belief that I'm going to share with you and you can take it or leave it, but it's my belief that we all come to earth with our own correction, or in the words of Kabbalah, they say tikkun, that we come to heal and overcome. So it's kind of like how I said, I'm a Virgo and one of my things is perfection. And in a sense, our souls, each of our own souls, have those things that are for us to heal and overcome as well. So yours might be anger, yours might be jealousy, yours might be not ever feeling good enough, or comparison, or lack in some form, or you know who knows, it could be so many different things, and this is a lifelong personal growth journey. It's not something that you're just going to instantly know about yourself and you'll know everything that there is to know about yourself in a 45-minute podcast episode. It's just obviously not like that, right? So, and that's the thing that you need to remember too, is like the joy of life is the journey. So please know that it actually can be fun to learn about yourself and it can be enjoyable, and it should be a process that you continue to nurture and come back to week after week, to understand yourself and get to know yourself more deeply every day. Because like from my own personal growth journey, it's actually what makes life so fulfilling. And I see the people who maybe don't have their own spiritual or personal growth practice feeling a void in their life, feeling like something is missing. And so I think, to me, this is what I think is missing for people, is not feeling connected to themselves, not knowing themselves, and always feeling like there's something else material that they need to accomplish to then feel fulfilled. And from my own self-growth journey, it's been, the fulfillment has come from me knowing myself deeper and deeper every day. Then the next thing is, this is kind of maybe the last thing we'll talk about, is start to learn how to read your own energy. And I talked about this on an Instagram post. At the time you're listening to this, it was last week. I think it was last Friday. Yeah, I think it was. I was talking about like energetically protecting yourself. And what I mean by that is starting to read your own energy and understand the intention behind why you think something, why you say something, why you do something. So, for example, if you say something to someone and you're like bragging to them, what's the intention behind that? Oh, you're feeling like you're not good enough, and so you're going to talk about your accomplishments to try to get their approval or try to get them to think better of you, right? Like you want to start to understand the energy behind why you're doing something. And this is something that I've really been doing in my own life for quite some time, and also start to recognize I do it with other people too, of course, just in the coaching relationship. And I'm starting to really notice that for a lot of people, like so much of we justify, we explain ourselves, we play small, we might belittle ourselves, make jokes about ourselves at our own expense because we are feeling not good enough, or we feel like, you know, we don't want people to judge us or whatever it is. And so start to recognize if you say something, just get curious and say to yourself, why did I say that? What was the point of me saying that? Or if you do something, say, why did I do that? What was the point of me doing that? You might have a theme. We all have patterns and we all have themes, but you might have a theme around feeling like you need to always be giving to people and that you constantly feel empty and depleted and um, burnt out because you're always giving to other people. And while it is good to spiritually be giving, you still need to give to yourself. So if it's coming from a place of you not feeling good enough, you feeling like, I have to be the martyr, I have to always be giving to other people more than I give to myself, you will end up feeling depleted. And that's going to have an impact on your health and your happiness and relationships because it's a system that's all connected. So start to read your own energy and just get into the habit of literally hundreds of times a day asking yourself, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I think that even? Okay. Um, and and start to notice like even it'll be the most interesting, the people that you think that you're better than, and the people that you think are better than you. Really get to know yourself when you're around those people. And do you try to suck up to them? Do you, like, when you think somebody's better than you, notice how you might suck up to them? And if you think that you're better than other people, notice how you might act like you're superior to them. So it's just starting to know yourself and be the person that you really want to be in this lifetime. So this was another long episode. I've been feeling like I guess I just have lots to share lately. Thanks for listening to this episode. And I just want to remind you that if you check in the show notes, there will be a link for you to download some journaling prompts for you to get to know yourself even deeper. These are many of the journaling prompts that I have inside of my Align membership for my clients to get to know themselves as well. So these are powerful questions, and I encourage you to give yourself, 15 to 30 minutes or so and sit in a place that's quiet where you won't be distracted and where you won't feel like someone is going to come in and look at your journal. And if you need to rip it up and tear it up or burn it or cut it or whatever, you totally can when you're done, because I know that sometimes journaling can be um, a vulnerable practice. That's totally fine. But just writing things down has a much bigger impact than just thinking about it. So if you just spent, 10 minutes thinking, chances are your mind is going to wander. If you have a pen in your hand and you're journaling on the paper, your mind is going to stay more on task. So just for that reason alone, I encourage you to actually journal instead of just think about what you think about. Okay. So thanks for listening. Just a reminder, follow me on Instagram at megan.schmidt.coaching. Join us inside of the Align membership. You can find out about that at meganschmidt.com. Also, if you want to take this work even deeper and focus on personalized support for every single area of your life, one-on-one coaching is going to be a much better fit for you. So you can also find that on my website. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast, get inside my Facebook group, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, or any of my programs. Thanks for listening. Have an amazing week, and we will chat soon. Take care.